Hello everyone, today I want to take you on a garden tour to show you all the things that are looking good in the month of August. We live in New Hampshire in Zone 5B, recently changed to Zone 6A. And of course, one of the first things that you see that is looking stunning is this tall phlox in the background with its beautiful magenta blooms. So these are phlox that have seeded themselves in the garden, and I have moved them over to this garden when I first started it, and I just love them so much. They are about 4 feet tall. I would say they can grow taller if the deer leave them alone. They can reach up to 5 feet tall, I think. But they are just magnificent, and some of them have darker blooms than others, and they stay blooming forever. They stay blooming for maybe like 6 to 8 weeks or maybe even more. And I just love phlox so much because some of them also have beautiful fragrance. Not all the varieties have this beautiful fragrance to them, but some of them do. And you can see here they kind of start getting shorter over here because this is where the deer tend to come the most, and these get grazed. But after I have seen that the deer have come here and grazed on them, I started spraying religiously, but recently I haven't been able to just because it's been raining so much. And in fact, it was raining the whole day today, and this is the time that I was able to get here. But you can see there are varieties of colors somewhat in here. I have intended for them all to be the same color, but sometimes some things seed themselves and I just leave them, or sometimes I may accidentally transplant something that I did not intend to have, where I did not intend to have that color in here. But these are looking very good right now. I hope you guys can see the color. They are just, oh, this fragrance in here is magnificent. I love them so much, and they are very hardy plants. I think they're probably hardy to zone 4. I'm not exactly sure. I'll put the hardiness zone on the screen so that you guys will know whether this plant is hardy in your area or not. Behind the phlox, or in front of them, in the middle of the bed, basically, there is this Jane magnolia, and it's doing amazing now that it has been receiving a lot of rain. I have this bed over here is not on irrigation, and I haven't been watering it at all, but clearly it is loving its life now that it's getting all this rain. And early in the season, the phlox did get some powdery mildew. This is something that we do deal with, but now that it's receiving all the rain, it looks like it's doing so much better. In the front, you see these roses over here are some knockout roses. I don't know the exact variety, but when I first bought them, they were on sale. I had them in the front of the house, and they looked very beautiful in there, but I just wanted to change that area. And I moved them over here, but now that I see both colors together, they just clash. In the past year, when I did move them, I wasn't able to see the phlox with the roses together because I moved the roses in the fall, I think, two years ago. And the phlox wasn't blooming. And the year before that, no, the year before this year, the phlox was getting shorn down by the deer, so I wasn't able to see it blooming at the same time that the roses were blooming. But because these are knockout roses, they're more resistant to black spot. They are more resistant to all sorts of rose diseases, fungal diseases, and issues like that. But I did notice, even though that's the case, they do still get some of those issues in our area because of our high humidity. And I think this year I have been spraying them with horticultural oil. I spray them with BT, and I spray them with neem oil to keep the bugs away, because usually my roses end up looking lacy because of the bugs that tend to devour them. And this year all my roses are doing amazingly well because I have been spraying them every 2 weeks, and I have stayed on top of them with exception to this past week because of all the rain that we have been getting. So there was no point of me spraying because all of it would just wash away with all the rain, and some of it has been torrential, like today, for example. And you might see some damage from the rain as I show you around the garden. But anyways, these roses eventually are going to be gone because I do not like red in the garden. I think their color is beautiful if it was with some colors that will match with it. The way how it looks like right now, we have some cool colors in the back and we have this warm tone in the front, and that just clashes and it does not work together. So we'll be changing that. I'm going to be in the future adding a lot more plants in here. You can see the weeds are starting to sprout because of all the rain. But we're going to add more plants in here and change this bed maybe in a couple years from now, because my focus right now is the front. I've been also working on this area over here. I haven't done a lot of progress, but I just want to show you the sunflowers over here, and the zinnias have finally started blooming, and I do love this zinnia mix. Even though I didn't buy a mix, I bought a variety, and you can see the monarchs are loving them. It's not just monarchs, I see also, what is that? Not sure what kind of a butterfly that is. There's a monarch and there's another type of butterfly. They love the sun and they love the zinnias. They just absolutely love them. And I have a lot of zinnias over here, and the butterflies are super happy. But this is a beautiful mix over here. Originally, the seeds that I bought the Enchantress Pink and I believe the Enchantress Purple. And I did plant one variety in here, but I've noticed that they have the seeds that are in those packets are not fully the exact variety that should be. And I've got even some red zinnias, like you could see over here. This one right here is red. So anyways, this area over here, I'm gonna eventually finish it, hopefully this summer, or we're closing in on to fall, but I'm gonna be finishing up this area, and then eventually I'm gonna add in maybe a picnic table or something like that to the side. This pool here only stays in the summer, and then it has to be put away in the fall. I have a leak in there that I need to fix, and hopefully I can fix that soon when it's not raining. On this side over here, ignore the dead flowers in the back. Those are the ones that I transplanted and I forgot to water and cut back, so we'll just look at the ones that are looking beautiful. This right here is the Royal Raspberry Agastache, and it is doing amazingly well. It has a beautiful fragrance and the bees absolutely love it. There are tons of bumblebees on it. I don't know if you can see them, and all sorts of native bees. Oh, they love it so much. The rain did knock some of the sunflowers down, so that's something I've been battling with because of all the rain that we've been getting. Eventually I'm going to be cutting them down, but for now I'm just leaving them so that the butterflies and the bees can enjoy them. Also, another plant that's looking really beautiful right now during this time is echinaceas. All sorts of echinaceas are doing amazingly well. This right here is the Paradiso Super Duper Echinacea. I started it from seed. A lot of things that are in here are started from seed, and it's doing amazingly well. And it's been blooming for a really, really long time. And if I continue to deadhead it, it will continue to bloom all the way until the first frost. It's an absolutely amazing plant. And look at that foliage. Look how lush that is, and dark green and beautiful. And the leaves are just gigantic. I've never seen echinacea leaves this huge. Very, very beautiful. Uh, there's still some Rudbeckia that's blooming, but one thing that I have noticed in our area that Rudbeckia suffers with is powdery mildew. It rarely ever does well. Every single year they do get powdery mildew, and I end up cutting them all the way back, and some of them I have to just toss away because they just completely rot. And another plant that right now doesn't look that great, but it will look amazing if it wasn't transplanted. So I've recently transplanted these butterfly milkweed, and this one looks like it was having some water issues because I haven't yet set up the irrigation in here to give them water, but you can see this is the bloom that it will have on it, and it's going to look very beautiful. But it did look beautiful before I transplanted it, and the poor thing is just not doing so well right now. It's okay. Another plant that's doing amazingly well right now is this Coreopsis americana, or tick seed. So you can see it makes these beautiful dainty pink flowers, and it has this beautiful dainty foliage. It's in general a beautiful plant, and I started this from seed as well, and it's just started blooming, and it looks like we're gonna get lots of blooms off of it. You can see all these little heads right here, they're all going to bloom. And right next to it is this salvia. I got these on sale a few weeks ago, and I deadheaded them, and you can see right now, I'll try to show you, they are just starting to bloom. So once these put on some more growth, all this would be filled with blooms, and it's going to grow to about 18 inches wide and 12 to 18 inches tall. You can see right here, we have a lot of blooms right here. Another plant that just started blooming is this Coreopsis lanceolata, and I love the foliage on this plant, but I think I planted it in the wrong place because it looks like it grows pretty tall. You can see the blooms on it. I'm not so sure why they look like something has been chewing on them, but that's what they look like right now. I think that what I'm going to be doing is possibly getting rid of the black-eyed Susans and instead using the Coreopsis lanceolata in its place, because it's about the same height, and also it looks so much better at this time of the year. It has beautiful foliage, and it's lush, and it's flowering, so I think we're probably going to replace the black-eyed Susans with that in the future. We'll see. Another thing that's doing really well right now are these hostas right here. I'm not sure what is the variety of this hosta over here, but you can see they are so lush and beautiful, and this bed is not on irrigation, and the ferns are doing really well as well, even though it's not on irrigation. The columbine, I think that they had some sort of a fungal disease earlier in the season because of all the water that we receive in the spring season, but it looks like they have bounced back and they're doing so much better right now. This one right here is the leprechaun gold columbine, and it is absolutely gorgeous. I just love the foliage on this plant, and it has beautiful blooms as well in the spring. Speaking of what's doing well, we have more zinnias in here, but other than zinnias, I planted this gourd plant apparently, and I totally forgot about it, and it has overtaken this whole area. I think these might be like it could be 5 plants. I'm not sure because I plant 5 seeds in one hole, and this thing is overtaking the yard and the gourds on it are gigantic. I mean, this is not the beginning of the gourd. If I go all the way down to like, I don't know, it starts, I think like it starts somewhere there. And then if I back up, so that's where it starts. This is where it goes. These gourds are gigantic. I have cooked with them a little bit, but it's really difficult to just take one gourd and cook something with it because they are so gigantic. So I try to find the smaller ones to cook with, and the larger ones I'm gonna keep, and I want to see what happens to them. Are they kind of a winter type squash? Because I've never grown this gourd before. This is the first year I have tried it, and we will see whether it's a good variety or not. I may want to grow it again, and I may not. I don't know. But in the morning especially, this plant looks amazing because of all the blooms on it. It has white blooms and they look gorgeous in the early morning, and the bees absolutely love them. I mean, look at this. It's overtaking the whole area. I was also climbing on the swings, and I had to take it out, and look, you can see there's one right there. It's doing the same thing. So I do have to prune it sometimes, and it was growing all over the zinnias, and I had to cut it back as well. Another thing that is doing amazingly well is this hedge of lavender. So you can notice that the back over there is a little bit smaller than the front over here, and that's because I planted them at different times. But this lavender has surprised me so much. This is Munstead lavender. I got them as 3-inch pots, and I planted them here probably early summer, I think. And they have just started blooming maybe a couple weeks ago or so. And they have put on so much growth in just one season. It has, I mean, it's mind-blowing. They are probably, some of those plants are like 2 feet by 18 inches or something like that. I'm having a hard time seeing because of the sun, so I hope you guys are able to see. And their blooms are kind of this lavender color. They're not dark colors. I was hoping they would have kind of a darker bloom color, but that's okay. They are an amazing variety. It's been raining so much, and they actually love the rain. If you'll excuse me, I'm gonna pull this weed over here. There we go. See another one too. There we go. Oh, I broke it. Oh well. But I am super happy with this hedge over here, and the fragrance that they provide is just magnificent. And on the edge of this whole cottage garden, I have some salvias that have returned, and of course I also planted zinnias, and I believe I also planted the pink enchantress, and you can see there are just different varieties that happen to be in this these packets of seeds. So I ended up with some reds, some darker pinks, warmer toned pinks, and some of the salvia that I planted last year actually returned. And this plant is a favorite amongst the hummingbirds, and I love seeing them here. They come here every day and they just love it so much. And I love the combination of this blue salvia with the pink of the zinnias. Look at that. Isn't that just gorgeous? I love that so much. I think this is definitely a winning combination between the blue and the pink. They are both sort of pastel colors, and again, the bees and the butterflies, they just love them so much. Now I did have some spotty germination with the zinnias, and I believe that is due to some bugs that have been eating on my seedlings, and also possibly some animals that might chew off the seedlings after they germinate, because I've had that problem with zinnias everywhere I have planted them for the past 2 years. So I may have to start zinnias indoors and then just bring them out when I'm ready to plant them. But another combination is here. I just noticed this white salvia. So these are salvias that I started from seed last year, and some of them turned out to be white, and this one I haven't seen it because apparently I planted a zinnia right here. Did I? No, I guess this was here last year. But they also seeded themselves, as you can see in the back. So some of them are coming out through the fence, and they just look beautiful. So I left them because I love these blue salvias so much. I haven't smelled them to tell you whether they have a beautiful fragrance or not, but they are just a gorgeous plant and a pollinator attractor. And you can see right here there's another drift of the zinnias as well. And while we are in this area, there are a few plants, well, I think all the plants in this area are doing amazingly well and are worth mentioning. So the first one is the one that you see right here, and this is the Gracilium maidenhair grass, and it is gorgeous, and look how it glows in the sun. I love it so much, and so far it's been behaving itself really well. We do get very heavy rains, and it hasn't flopped once. It just looks absolutely beautiful, and I love how it sways in the wind, how it like glows in the sun. It's a gorgeous plant. And right next to it is, if I can focus, let me see, there we go. This plant right here, this is the Let's Dance Can Do hydrangea, and this is a big leaf hydrangea or macrophylla hydrangea, and it's a reblooming hydrangea. It's a proven winner variety, and this is a pH dependent hydrangea as well. So if your soil pH is more acidic, it's going to be more purple, and if your soil pH is more alkaline, it's going to be more pink. So the first blooms on this hydrangea were pink this season, and I may have added some soil acidifier. I think I might have given it some Hollytone, and that has soil acidifier in it, and you can see right now the blooms are a little bit on the purple side. They're not super purple, but they are sort of purple. So it continues to put on new blooms throughout the season. This was the first flush right here, and I think the blooms still look beautiful. They're kind of like an aged pink color. As it grows, you'll see more buds over here. But this is not a deer-resistant plant, so you do have to spray it if you do have deer. Another plant that's looking absolutely magnificent is this morning light grass. And this grass also sort of glows, and it has sort of a vase shape. It's beautiful, and also when there is wind, it kind of sways in the wind. It's just a beautiful grass that adds a beautiful texture and color to the garden. Another plant that I have been absolutely loving is this oak leaf hydrangea. I believe this is the Gatsby pink oak leaf hydrangea. I transplanted it earlier in the season to this area. It was under our deck, and it kept breaking from the weight of the snow on it, and it has put on so much growth this season. It's in a protected area. It does receive afternoon sun, but it's protected in the morning. And I have been watering it. It doesn't need as much water as where it was earlier, because in the place where I had it before, it was in full sun from morning until late afternoon. And over here, it is protected for a good portion in the morning, and I think a little bit also in the afternoon. This is right now Not exactly sure what time it is right now. I didn't even look at the clock when I came out, but we are in the afternoon right now, and this thing has maybe wilted a couple times in the heat of the summer, but I did give it water, and remember, it was freshly transplanted in here. And we are in a lower zone, so we don't get as hot as some of you in the south and in the hotter regions. So if you are in those regions, you might want to protect your oak leaf hydrangea and put it more in a more shady location, maybe afternoon shade and morning sun. Something else that's looking great, although the flowers on the Calibrachoa has faded away because of all the rain, the coleus that's in this container over here, this is, if I can remember the name, flamethrower coleus, and this is in full sun, and it does really, really well. I expected it to crisp up in the sun and to like completely wilt and suffer, but this is not what it has been doing. It is really loving this place, and again, this is a full sun location, and it has done so well, and I think I will definitely plant it again. It says on it, when you do purchase it, it does say that it's a full sun coleus, full sun to part shade, and it's definitely can take full sun. Another thing that is doing amazingly well is this Fantasia nectarine. Right here, it looks gorgeous. I love this tree, and I love the structure on it as well. It's a beautiful structure, and a bonus, it does provide fruits. It's beautiful, and right under it, it's underplanted with some purple dragon Lamium. Now, it does have a little bit of burning on it, I think, or just some, not exactly sure. I don't think that's burning. I think it looks more like, let me see if I can show you a better view. I can hardly see because of all the sun. This was the wrong time, I think, to film. But overall, it's a really, it's a workhorse in the garden. It's constantly putting on new blooms, as you can see right here. It's a beautiful ground cover. It has kind of a silvery foliage to it. It is just gorgeous. It has beautiful texture and beautiful color to the garden. Probably the number one on my list would be this beautiful Gertrude Jekyll. This rose, I planted it bare root this spring. I planted 5 of them, 4 in this bed over here, and 1 next to the oak leaf hydrangea that you saw earlier. And these roses are constantly in bloom. They do need deadheading, but they are so fragrant, and their blooms are so beautiful. They grow about 5 feet tall and 3.5 feet wide, and I believe they are hardy to zone 4 or zone 5. I'm not exactly sure. I will put the hardiness zone for these plants, for all the plants in fact, on the screen, and you guys can look them up as well. I may put links for them as well. I got these from, this is a David Austin rose. I got them from the David Austin website, and it's a lot cheaper to get them bare root, and you can see they are so well established in here, and this is their first season. And here is another plant that's doing really well. This is a delphinium. I think this might be the white delphinium. I started 2 varieties of delphinium. White, what's it called? I will put the name on the screen. I forgot what they are called. But I believe this one grows about 3 feet tall, and this is its first season in the ground, and it's doing really well. The other ones I accidentally killed, but you can see this is a second flush of bloom, and I have saved the first flush of bloom so that I can harvest some seeds off of it. And it has beautiful foliage, and the blooms are absolutely gorgeous on it, and of course they are very well loved by the bees and the butterflies as well. And here's another rose that's also another workhorse in the garden. This is the At Last rose from Proven Winners. It also has a beautiful fragrance. I wouldn't say it's as strong as the Gertrude Jekyll. It is more of a mild fragrance. The Gertrude Jekyll has more of a quintessential rose fragrance. This is more, I would say, more fruity, milder tone, but it's still a beautiful fragrance, and it has a beautiful color as well. And right behind it, this is the Incredible Hydrangea. I bought it as a quart size, I believe, and it has put on a lot of growth, probably 3 times the amount of when I first got it. It does look like it might need a little more iron. I have noticed that whenever I have wood chips in the garden, that they do steal some of the nitrogen from the soil away from the plants if they are not fully broken down or they haven't started the breaking down process yet. So I will be adding some iron tone to it and possibly some soil acidifier, because hydrangeas do like more acidic soil. But I love the foliage on this plant. I think it adds a beautiful texture even when it's not blooming. And of course, we can't talk about the plants that are doing well without mentioning Veronica. Veronica is such a beautiful plant, and it does so well, and it blooms to what seems like forever. It has been blooming from early summer, and now we are in late August, and it continues to bloom. And it's not as in full bloom as when it first started. You can deadhead it if you wish, but it's going to continue to put on some more blooms. You can see right here, this is a new bloom stalk right here. This is an older bloom stalk, and we have ones that are sort of midway. So you can go and sort of pick the blooms that have faded away and deadhead those and keep the new blooms on it, or you can shear it all back if you want to, just the top of the plant, and it will reflush and put on some more new blooms. But I don't like to do that because I don't know if you can see, the bees absolutely love it. Especially, I think, the bumblebees. The honeybees do love it as well because the blooms are not super deep, and they can reach in there and take the nectar and the pollen out of there. When you are considering plants for honeybees, you want to consider plants that are more wide open so that the pollinators can get in and that do not have a deep throat, so that the honeybees can get in there and get the pollen and the nectar, because the honeybees do not have as long of a tongue as the bumblebees do. And something else that I love in this season, even though it's not blooming, is this plant right here. This is Siberian iris. I just love the foliage so much. I think it looks really beautiful, and it adds this beautiful texture in the garden. You can see how it plays really well with all the plants around it. Even though it's not blooming, I think it's still providing that beautiful texture in the garden. And there are more plants in here, of course, that I have mentioned before, but it's a different variety. This is lavender. This is Purple Elegance lavender. I planted it around the same time I planted the Munstead lavender, and you can see which one does better in our environment over here. The Munstead lavender does so much better in our area than the Purple Elegance lavender. You can judge for yourself which one of the two lavenders does better in our environment, which is a humid environment. We get a lot of rain and a lot of humidity. Definitely it's the Munstead lavender, the Purple Elegance lavender, even though the blooms on it are darker purple and the color that I prefer more. I think that it's not as robust and as resistant to rot like the Munstead lavender is, and it cannot take as much water as the Munstead lavender can. So maybe in the future I may change this hedge over here of lavender into the Munstead lavender if I notice that these are just constantly dying or maybe not flourishing as much as the month-scent lavender. You can see that I have already lost one due to the rain and humidity. This is the powwow wildberry echinacea. It's still blooming. It has been blooming for so long. The blooms on it have aged and sort of changed in color. They're not as this deep magenta color that they used to be, but there are some new blooms still on it, and maybe I can show you the color. And this is what the new blooms will look like. And then they will age to this color and that color. And I do like to keep the seed heads on them because the yellow finches love them so much. And you can go ahead and deadhead it, and it will continue to bloom that way for a longer period of time, probably until frost. But I like to leave the seed heads because of the birds. They love them so much, and I like watching the birds also. And this sedum right here, this is the firecracker sedum, and it just started blooming. The bees, especially the honeybees, love this plant so much. You can see the blooms are wide open. It's super easy to get to the pollen and to the nectar in here. It's a beautiful ground cover plant. It provides beautiful texture and color in the garden. And while we are here, I might as well share with you some of my thoughts on this bed over here. This bed I have extended last fall, probably about twice the size, I would say. And I am planning to put a boxwood hedge in the back and adding a whole lot more shrubs and perennials into this bed. And I'm hoping to be able to do that next season. If I can't add all of them next season, that's all right, but this is what I'm going to try to do. I think so far what I have done over here, I'm really loving it. I have a lot of annuals in here, like the vinca in here. I think it looks really beautiful in here. I'm going to be leaving an area probably about like right over here for some annuals so that we can always have some sort of a pop of color in the bed, because sometimes the shrubs and the perennials kind of go in and out of blooms, and there are certain parts during the growing season when the shrubs and the perennials do not have any blooms on them. So the annuals will kind of act as a filler and provide this constant color in the garden. And with all the rain that we have been getting, my petunias have lost all their blooms, with exception to two different varieties. This is the hot pink wave shockwave petunia, I believe, and you can see how it is full of blooms and has put on a lot of growth. This is just one plant, I believe, and it is doing amazingly well. And I was thinking I may not plant any petunias next year because of all the spraying that I have to do because of the budworms and also of all the fertilizing. I haven't fertilized this in like, I don't know, 3-4 weeks, maybe more, and look at it, it's doing so well, and it doesn't have that much soil in the area where it's planted, and it's still doing amazingly well. All it needs is just some water and sun, and of course the more you fertilize your petunias, the more they are going to produce for you. But this plant is doing amazingly well in comparison with my other petunias that I have started from seed and some that I have purchased. And here's another variety of petunia that I think is doing really well. This is the purple wave petunia, and you can see it still has lots of blooms on it. If I was fertilizing it more, it would definitely bloom a lot more. But I think it looks really beautiful, and the budworms are not attacking it as much as they do to some of the other varieties, like the coral reef petunia. They love that plant so much, and I've went for a couple weeks or more without blooms on that plant because of the budworms, and then when the rain comes, it knocks off all the blooms. And another plant that's in here as well is the sweet alyssum. This one I have started from seed, and I love sweet alyssum so much. It smells beautiful and it also looks beautiful, and it performs throughout the summer and all the way until hard frost. And just a few more things in here. This is the cottage garden over here. I haven't done I feel like I haven't done any work on it this year. I planted a few plants in here. You can see I planted some zinnias. I planted a variety of zinnia that was supposed to be short, but it did not sprout at all. So I decided to go ahead and plant over here some fall crops in here and just kind of use this space while I have it to grow some of our crops in here along the flowers. But even though I haven't done anything, it still looks beautiful. It looks like a cottage garden. It was unintentional. These cosmos over here sort of seeded themselves in here, and I love them so much. They're beautiful. The hibiscus over there, this is the very awesome hibiscus, is looking beautiful. It's been blooming for a long time, and it looks like very soon it's going to go out of bloom, but it has performed so well. And of course there's some sort of a bug that just ate it, and its leaves look very lacy, so I'm not going to get close to it. Right there over here, there's a blueberry with some blueberries on it, so this is why I have kind of a net over it. I've also planted some tomatoes in here just to use up the space and kind of prevent weeds from growing in here. They're doing really well. Some of them are going to require a little more staking, I think. I just need to come in here, harvest them, and just keep them well staked. It's not a lot of them, should be easy to do. I have a lot more tomatoes in the vegetable garden. Those I have a little bit neglected and I have not staked as well as I would like to. So I'm going to try to do that soon. This plant right here, I've started this plant from seed. This is the obedient plant, and it is beautiful. I love it. Oh, we got a bug on it. I don't know what the bug is. I don't think that's a good bug. But anyways, it's supposed to love the water, so this is more of a boggy location in here, and it's looks like it's doing great in here. It just needs, this is its first season, and it's gonna need a couple seasons to start putting on a lot more growth. I'm gonna grab a tomato, because why not? This is my favorite tomato ever. The large red cherry tomato. This is the best tomato that you can ever eat. It's sweet. It's not like overwhelmingly sweet. It just has the perfect hint of sweetness. And it is great for sauces, for like tomato sauce, for pasta sauce, for all the sauces. It's wonderful. It does have a lot of liquid, so you'll have to boil it more than you would like your paste tomato. I see a hummingbird. Anyways, it's a beautiful tomato, and I encourage everyone to grow the large red cherry tomato. Delicious. And this cosmos over here, it has flopped because of the wind and the rain, but it looks so beautiful. I just love it so much, and it's so wispy and gorgeous, and I love that it's actually growing kind of across the ground as a ground cover like that after it has flopped. You can see it's a huge plant. It just looks gorgeous. I love it so much. And right next to it, I don't know if you can see, let me see if I can give you another angle. Right next to it, I have the purple love grass. It's not the most beautiful grass, but it has these beautiful wispy purple blooms, and as it grows, it's going to have a lot more of these, and it's going to create this beautiful cloud of purple plumes, and it's going to look gorgeous in here. And of course, I'm going to grab another tomato because I love these so much. And on this side of the cottage garden, we have the medicinal garden. And I have right behind the chairs right there some feverfew, and this has been blooming the whole summer. I planted it from seed, and I love its fragrance. It kind of smells a little bit like mums, and I love the mum fragrance. I wonder if it's in the same family. And it's a great plant for all sorts of uses. You can look it up. I'm not going to say what it's for because I'm not a doctor or an herbalist. But I am planning on learning all the things to how to use all these plants that I'm going to be planting in here and that I have already planted in here. I did come yesterday and clean up this whole area. I've been working on weeding it. We have a lot of grass seed, like all sorts of different types of grass that are really tall, and they were kind of overcrowding everything, and I wasn't able to get to them earlier, but I finally did. And this is why the echinacea has this really long bloom stalks, but I do love them. And the hollyhocks, I cut them all back because they just get so much powdery mildew in our area, and they were completely dead basically. So I cut them all back. It looks like they have seeded themselves in here. So what I'm going to be doing in the future is I'm going to just use the foliage the first year when it comes up and preserve it that way, because it's a really good plant for rashes and all sorts of things. And right behind the echinacea over there, there's some comfrey. I got the plants from Azure Standard, and I did not expect them to grow this big. I mean, I knew it's going to grow big, but it's crowding so many things in here, like this bergamot. No, not bergamot. This is lemon balm. I mean, look at the poor plant. So what I'm thinking of doing is actually pushing everything a little bit forward so that these plants can have a little more sunlight. And the comfrey is good for so many uses, including nitrogen fixation for plants. And you could use the leaves. I mean, look at them. They're gigantic as a fertilizer. You could use them in compost tea, or you can just let them decompose around the area where you want to fertilize. It's a wonderful plant. It should not be ingested though. And right in front of it, this is blue hyssop. I thought when I purchased the seeds, I thought that this is the anise hyssop, and I was completely wrong. So I think this is also a medicinal plant. It's done blooming, but you can see right here, this is what the blooms look like, and they are a very beautiful blue. The whole blooms were full, and it's been blooming for such a long time. It's a beautiful plant. I do love it, but I don't know its uses yet. I assume it's very similar to the hyssop, the anise hyssop, but I don't know. And right behind it over there, this is bergamot, and I have, I think, 3 plants right here. And over here, this is catnip, I believe. Let's look at the tag. Where did I put it? Yep, this is catnip. And these are, I also bought these from Azure, the bergamot, the lemon balm, and the catnip. The salvia as well, that's right here. And the salvia is super, super sweet. The the blue hyssop, I did start from seed myself last year, and I put it in here. So I do have to start some anise hyssop. I bought some seeds, and I will be starting some. I did plant some chamomile. You can see it right there, but because of all the grass and everything, it was done blooming and went to seed. And I cut it back, hoping that it will flush back with some new growth, and hopefully we can harvest some chamomile. I mean, I still have some chamomile in the house from last year when I did plant some, and I turned it into tea, and it's great. I love it. I did put the cuttings back over there because I want it to kind of seed itself. Maybe I should spread it a little bit in front of the hyssop. I do want it to seed itself in here so that next season I don't have to replant it. And we also have a blueberry right here. This is, I believe, blue crop. Let's see. Yep, this is blue crop blueberry, and it has beautiful large berries on it that the birds ate all up. But it's looking really healthy, even though our soil isn't very acidic, and I do give it soil acidifier every single season, otherwise it will get chlorosis and go yellow. And also on this side over here, we have a row of asparagus. I did plant some purple asparagus, but it looks like they have suffered greatly because one, I didn't give them enough water earlier in the season when we had a dry season, and all the plants were just crowding them, so they didn't put any growth on because they love the sun. And on this side over here, again, another row of zinnias, and this is the Zahara raspberry ripple zinnia, I think that's what it is. I planted a whole bunch of seeds. They were pelleted. I did not expect them to be pelleted, and only a few of them came up. And some of them weren't actually this color, some of them look white. So I think I'm gonna look for somewhere else to buy the seeds next season, and hopefully I can get some beautiful Zahara raspberry ripple zinnias because they are beautiful and short, and you can also use them in containers. And I do love these chairs over here, and this is why. You can sit over here and just look at everything. And when this is planted with the plan that I have for it, it's all gonna look very beautiful. And I think it's still beautiful right now, even though it's kind of messy. This is not my style. I like things to be more sort of organized. I think this is more kind of like what I would like it to look, kind of this vibe over here. You know, it's a cottage garden after all. And right now, I am not working on this section right here. I'm just barely adding plants, and I'm not even filming it. And this area in here has not been disappointing at all. The dahlias have just started blooming. I forgot what variety of dahlias these are. It looks like I have some that are taller than others. They're in the back over there. The petunias, unfortunately, the rain just kind of demolished all their blooms. It's been raining almost every single day. The zinnias are doing amazingly well, and we also have some black-eyed Susans that seated themselves in here, and I just left them. But look at this bee over here enjoying this dahlia bloom right here. This is very beautiful. I think I'm definitely going to save the tubers of these dahlias because I love them. I think they are very striking, and they work great in the front of the border. They bloom later in the season, so they do take some time to start over here for us. But I think they will provide that color in the late summer, early fall. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope it was helpful. And I'm gonna eat my tomato, and I'll see you again in the next video. Bye!